We continue the Shiur Gemara. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan, who was known as the Mara, the Arad Yisrael, which means the chief rabbi of the entire land of Israel, he was originally a student of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Yudah Nasi, who compiled the Gemara. Chief rabbi of Israel, the Gemara says about him that he possessed a handsomeness that was far beyond normal. A beauty, handsomeness that is, that went up in the chain back to Yaakov Avinu and Adam Arishon. And he wanted to use this handsomeness for a purpose. In his desire to help the Jews, the Gemara says that he sat at the gates of the mikveh, the entrance to the mikveh, where women went to the mikveh night. Mikveh night means when a woman becomes pure after being in Idah, she goes to the mikveh to submerge, and then she is pure for her husband. So the Leil Tevilah, the night of mikveh, is a night when the Gemara says most probabilities, the vast majority of cases, that's the night that a woman conceives. So he went and sat at the entrance to the mikveh so that women passing by could see him. They would naturally not just look at him, they would stare at him very intently at his handsomeness. And the Gemara says that when a woman stares at something very intently, before conception, that she's going to conceive something resembling that which she stares at. Yochanan said, let me sit here, but the women stare at me. Of course, it's very important to point out, he, Chas v'Shalom, did not look at them. He did not look at women, that was certain. But he sat there so that they could look at him, and staring at him, they would be certain of giving birth to children that were also unusually good-looking. This was his purpose. Where do we find the origin to this rule? We find that the Parashah says that Yaakov Avinu had made a deal with Lavan. He would take his cattle, and only those cattle that were born, that were spotted, speckled, striped, would belong to Yaakov Avinu. All others will belong to Lavan. Now, Yaakov Avinu had no spotted, speckled sheep with him. How could they give birth to spotted and speckled sheep? But that says that he took sticks, long rods, and he carved out on these sticks spots, speckles, and stripes. He placed this at the watering trough where the cattle came just before mating time. And these were in such bright colors that the cattle gazed, stared at these sticks, and automatically when they conceived cattle that were also spotted and speckled. We see that's the nature, a woman staring at something, or woman or a female, even in the case of animals, staring at something very intently before conception. The birth will be one that resembles that which they stare at. So Yochanan said, I sit at the gates of Tevilah, the mikveh, to give Jewish women the opportunity to have children that are as handsome as I am or resemble my handsomeness. The Gemara asks, isn't there fear of an ayin hara? When something is very good, someone possesses a lot of wealth or a lot of good luck, good fortune, there are people who begrudge them this good fortune, and there are people who possess the power of ayin hara, evil eye. So the Gemara says that a person who has something very good, a good fortune, should try to hide it from others, because if they begrudge him, they might look at him, stare with this evil eye, which can harm him. Sometimes this evil eye could prove fatal. Especially the ayin hara, the ayin of a woman who was in Idah. When they were going to the mikveh, they were in Idah. Their ayin is even more dangerous than the average ayin hara. So how did Rabbi Yochanan take a chance of sitting there And people passing by would declare about his handsomeness and look at it with envy. This could be Ayin Hara, which could be destructive. The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan said, I fear not, he told his students, I do not fear the Ayin Hara, because I am a descendant of Yosef HaTzadik, also who possessed this unusual beauty, and Yosef HaTzadik was blessed by his father Yaakov Avinu that no Ayin Hara should be able to have any effect upon him. He should be like the fish in the sea, who are below the waters, beneath the waters. They cannot be seen. The eye cannot rule over them. And so too should he be above the power of Ayin Hara, that no Ayin Hara can harm him. Now, what is meant by why specifically Yosef HaTzadik? Why did it work so with Yosef HaTzadik, that he wasn't affected by Ayin Hara? We find that he wasn't affected even before his father's blessing, which means that he was immune to the Ayin Hara before that. The answer is that Ayin Hara means that a person has a certain mazal. His mazal, his luck, according to the stars, is that he's going to be wealthy, or he's going to be very healthy, or good-looking, and then along comes someone with an Ayin Hara, an evil eye, that is so strong, is so evil, that it could overpower even the mazal, above the mazal. However, the case of Yosef HaTzadik, he himself was above mazal. Because what is mazal? What are the mazalot? We speak about mazalot, the signs of the zodiac, the set of the stars, according to the month, according to the birth of a person, so on, according to astrology. This all depends upon the sun, the moon, and the stars, their position, especially that of the stars. In the case of Yosef HaTzadik, we find that he said, that he dreamt, that the sun, the moon, and the stars bowed to him, which means he was their superior. He was not subordinate to them, didn't depend upon the mazal coming from the stars. He ruled over them. So he ruled over his destiny and over his mazal. And therefore, no Ayin Hara could overpower him. In this case, he was completely immune to it. The Gemara says there was a sequel to this point of Rabbi Yochanan's good looks. One day he came to the river's edge to wash there, and he saw, this was at the stream. The stream was pretty wide. On the other side of the stream stood Resh Lakish. Resh Lakish at that time was the leader, the head of a band of thieves. He was extremely powerful physically, and he was feared by every type of bandit and by every type of tribes. They had cannibal tribes in those days. They all feared his strength. So they made him the leader, or the Rav, like that too a case of a rabbi, meaning a leader, over these bandits. He stood on the other side of the stream. He saw Rabbi Yochanan here bathing. So he took a leap over the stream, which took tremendous strength and agility. He reached Rabbi Yochanan's side to attack him with the rabbin. Rabbi Yochanan said to him immediately the famous words, Chelach Deoraita, your strength is remarkable. You should take that strength and use it in the study of Torah. Expend it. Absorb yourself in Torah and use all that power for the study of Torah. And Shlakish very cynically, sarcastically retorted, you should use your handsomeness for women. Imagine how you make out with women with a handsomeness like yours. Yochanan wasn't taken aback by this. He said to Resh Lakish, I see in you a very great potential for Torah, and I'll give you an offer. I have a sister who is just as good looking as I am, and in fact, much better, being a woman. I'll let you have her as a wife if you promise to come with me become a student of mine, the study of Torah. This was very tempting. The Reish Lakish accepted the offer. He dropped his connections, association with the bandits. He married Rabbi Yochanan's sister, and he settled down to study Torah, and he became extremely sharp. He became the greatest student of all the students Rabbi Yochanan had. He also became a very great tzadik. Yimeh says that a great deal of time later, there was a discussion about a certain law. We know that there is a din of tum'ah. Tum'ah means that anything, any article, utensil, which touches a dead body corpse or a dead rodent becomes tameh, impure. And this rule applies only to a finished product, to a utensil, a dish that is complete. Any article that's complete. If it is not complete, it's called a golam, which means an item that is not finished, an unfinished item. This cannot become tameh, cannot become impure. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish were debating as to when a sword is considered a finished product. In order to complete a sword that has to be forged, the steel must be forged, it must be heated in an oven, very strong fire. And then the question is, at what point is it considered a completed item? When can it become tameh? Rabbi Yochanan said, in my opinion, the work on a sword is completed after they have finished placing it into the fiery oven. When you withdraw it in its completed form, then it is a sword that can become tameh. Reish Lakish said it is not yet a completed item because after it comes out of the oven, it must first be placed in cold water to end the process, to tighten the steel, and then it's first a completed sword. So even if it's taken out of the oven and it touches a rodent, it still is not tameh yet because it's not a completed keli. Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, well, surely a bandit knows his own trade. You know better about swords than I do. Reish Lakish was taken aback. He felt stung by this remark. And he said, so what? What good did you do me, taking me away from my former trade and making me a student or a rabbi here? I was a rabbi before, and today I'm also a rabbi. And what did you help me? Yochanan answered, I helped you by bringing you beneath the wings of the Shekhinah. Before you were a rabbi, you were a leader, but you were very remote, very far from Kedusha, very far removed from the Shekhinah. I brought you under the wings of the Shekhinah. And you dare to ask me what I did for you in this case? He turned away, very deeply hurt. If Yochanan was hurt deeply, this of course affected Reish Lakish. There was an immediate vengeance, punishment meted out in heaven, hurting the feelings of his official rabbi, hurting the feelings of the leading rabbi of Eretz Yisrael. Reish Lakish became very ill. In fact, fatally ill because of this. Before we go further, we have to understand what actually transpired. What did Rabbi Yochanan mean, and why did this whole conflict come about? The fact was that this was all a very tragic misunderstanding on both sides. Because Rabbi Yochanan said to him, a bandit knows more about his own trade, therefore you know more about swords. This was not meant as a slighting remark. It was meant very seriously, with admiration. In all cases, I know Torah, din, laws better than you. In this case, you've had more experience than I have, so certainly the din should be like you. Reish Lakish took this, thinking this was an insult. It was a barb stinging him. So he said, to reply to this, Reish Lakish answered, what did you accomplish for me? Not accomplish, but the word is my ahanedli. In other words, why do you insult me with this remark? You insult me as though saying that I am no better now than I was before. Not that he asked, what is the improvement in being a rabbi here than there? Chas v'sholom, of course, he understood that. He knew that he lived up to this title. But he said, why do you make this remark that's so biting and so insulting when you see that I studied Torah seriously? Again, Rabbi Yochanan misunderstood his statement and thought that he meant this literally. I gained nothing by coming with you. Therefore, Rabbi Yochanan felt very hurt, and he said, I brought you under the wings of the Shekhinah. You don't appreciate this. He turned away, and because of the fact that he was hurt, though it was a misunderstanding, still, Resh Lakish was punished. He could not escape this punishment. He became ill, fatally ill, and Resh Lakish's wife, Rabbi Yochanan's sister, came to Rabbi Yochanan, and she began to plead with him. She said to him, think of my son. Think of myself. My son will become an orphan. I'll become a widow. Rabbi Yochanan said, I can't help you. I cannot change this punishment. I cannot remove it from Resh Lakish. I can only assure you that I'll just help support you in your status as widow, and your son in his status as orphan. Immediately afterwards, Resh Lakish was nistalik. He passed away. Rabbi Yochanan began to mourn his passing. He felt very badly about this, and he couldn't conduct regular classes. He took this so much to heart that he stayed away from classes from Shiurim in the yeshiva. The rabbis felt very badly. They said, someone has to go to Rabbi Yochanan to pacify him, to console him. So they said, whom shall we send? We'll send Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat, because he has the sharpest mind of all these students here. That went to Rabbi Yochanan's shiur. He sat in front of him. Rabbi Yochanan made a statement of halacha. Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat said, you're right. This and this page, this Gemara, it says exactly as you say. Each item, each statement he made, Elazar was so well versed in Talmud, the Gemara, that he brought proof to his statements each time. This went on for some time, and Rabbi Yochanan finally said to Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat, stop helping me, stop assisting me with your words, I don't need you. How do you ever compare to Resh Lakish? When I say something, you tell me I'm right, the Gemara says like that. I know I'm right without you telling me. So your words are of no avail to me. Compared to Resh Lakish, when I made a statement, he said I'm wrong. He asked 24 questions, powerful questions against my word. I had to think very deeply to give him 24 answers on each statement. Imagine how the study Torah was broadened by such a discourse, such conversation. How can you compare to Resh Lakish? I refused to accept your words or to listen to you further. He turned away even more broken-hearted. He tore his clothes as a sign of mourning, and he began to cry uncontrollably. His cries were, where are you, Resh Lakish? Now, why did he tear his clothes in mourning now, after so long a period? So long after Resh Lakish had passed away, at the original time he didn't tear his clothes. Now he tore his clothes. The answer is that the Torah tells us there's a law that when a close relative passes away, one of the 7 close relatives, that's parents, mother, father, a brother, sister, son, daughter, or mate, his husband or wife, that's 7. Every one of these 7, the Torah states that a person must tear kiniyah. He must rend his garment. On the right side, 5 relatives, on the left side, the parents. But there must be kiniyah. And this kiniyah is so important. This is min d'oraita, min ha-Torah. that is more important even than the sitting of Shiva. And it is so vital and so important that it is a shame, a tragic shame, that in our time, this din, not minhag, not custom, but din, has become so lessened in the eyes of so many, become so nullified, as for shalom, that we find that in a vast majority of funerals today, the people refuse to take part in this mitzvah, min ha-Torah. It's one of the 630 mitzvot, tear clothes. In fact, to make things worse, the American custom is, among Reform Jews, non-religious Jews, or mercenary chapels, that they place a black ribbon, they pin a black ribbon on the garments of the mourners, and they say the beracha, dayan emet, and they cut this black ribbon. There's nothing as disgraceful or sacrilegious as that, to vilify a major mitzvah in the Torah. Mitzvah of Kriyah is the first and foremost mitzvah in mourning a deceased relative. But the Gemara says that this mitzvah of Kriyah applies also in case of a student for his rabbi. He must also tear Kriyah because he is like a father to him. This applies only for a rabbi, not for a friend or a student. Now, originally, when Ish Lakish passed away, Rabbi Yochanan mourned him as a student, or at most as a friend. Later, when he saw Elazar ben Badad come to him and offer him this assistance, proof of his words, he first realized that Ish Lakish was so great as a student that he had actually served as a rabbi to Rabbi Yochanan, because asking so many questions forced Rabbi Yochanan to penetrate so much deeper into his studies, come up with answers, and thereby learning an additional amount, that he could actually classify Ish Lakish in a sense as his rabbi. And therefore it was then first that he tore his clothes in Kriyah. The Gemara says that he mourned so strongly, he cried so much, until it seemed to the rabbis that he couldn't control himself. He had gone beyond the normal state of mind. They were afraid for the state of his mind, and they prayed to Hashem to take him away. Rabbi Yochanan was the stalik after these prayers of the rabbis. But this shows the true mourning for a Talmid Chacham. The Gemara says that a person who cries, sheds tears over the passing of a tzadik, the mitzvah is so great that all his sins are forgiven. That's why, again, remember that on Yom Kippur, first sentence of the Kriyat Torah is the story of the passing of Aharon Kohen's two sons. And then he then says a person should be careful to cry when that pasuk is read, because on Yom Kippur it will help to have all his sins forgiven. We go back now to the continuation of the story of Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Arizal. You recall that we spoke about the fact that Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon was appointed as a detective by the Roman government. He was forced to bring in criminals, Jewish criminals, and no matter what crime they committed, the penalty was death. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha sent Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon a note saying, "You're handing over Jews to their death, criminal act." Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon said, "I want to prove to myself whether I did anything wrong. If I did, then that means that some tum'ah is taking place within me." He performed an operation where he removed fats from his body, placed this fats in the sun where it would spoil. Did not spoil at all. There were no worms of any kind that came into it. No worms came into it. This again proves what the Gemara states so many times, that the Torah itself not believes, but dictates the fact that there is spontaneous reproduction, spontaneous generation. A thing can be born without parents, without reproduction at all. There are insects that are born created from dirt or from filth. Science, of course, disagrees with that, as science disagrees with the Torah in general, faith. But here, by placing this fats in the sun, when it gets spoiled, germs or worms are formed. In his case, they remain pure. So he said, this proves that I committed no wrong, because no worms can attack me, meaning that I am that pure. The Gemara says now that despite this, Rabbi Shimon still felt that there might be a possibility of having done something wrong, and even in the slightest minor degree. He wanted to atone for this act. He decided to take upon himself Yisurim, suffering, self-accepted suffering. These are called Yisurim Shel Ahava. Yisurim out of love for Hashem, to suffer for the sake of purifying himself, even though he is not guilty, does not deserve this type of suffering. Type of Yisurim that the great tzadikim, the avot, fathers of the Jews had. And these Yisurim, the Gemara says in Berachot, a person could tell whether his Yisurim are of Ahava or otherwise, if the Yisurim in no way affect his study of Torah or Tefillah. So if a person is sick where he cannot study Torah or have Tefillah, these are not Yisurim Shel Ahava. Now the Yisurim, Rabbi Shimon took upon himself were the kind where it was internal suffering, and in a sense internal because it was actually external. It was like a type of leprosy where the skin became afflicted and there were pockets of pus that would come out. It was extremely painful. And at night, this all took place at nights, they had to place 60 sheets beneath him to absorb all this waste, destroyed cells that came from him. And of course, this took out a lot of strength from him. In the morning, his wife had to prepare 60 types of food, special health foods, and to regain his strength. He ate this, he became well, but she refused to let him go to the yeshiva to study Torah, so that the pressure of the rabbis there shouldn't make him feel worse, make him more ill. Yonah says that at night, he would say, "My dear brothers, my dear friends, come to me," speaking to the Yisurim, the suffering. In the morning, he would say to the Yisurim, "Leave me now because I must study Torah, I cannot be bothered." This was his power he had upon his own fate. This went on for a long period of time. One day his wife heard him, she overheard him say, "Come to me, my friends, my dear friends Yisurim." And she became very angry and said, "He's bringing it upon himself. Why should I nurse him like this? It's his own fault." Imagine the expense we're going through. So much bedding and so many types of food. The money that I have from my father is being wasted upon this unnecessarily. So she became angry and she said, "I'm going home to my father," and she left him. She took her daughter with her. Both went to her father's house. Rabbi Shimon was left alone at home. Now he had a problem. Where would he get someone to prepare the 60 types of food that was so necessary for him? That day, a boat came into shore, and they brought with them 60 slaves. They brought these 60 slaves carrying 60 chests of treasures, gold coins, and brought it to the Rabbi Shimon, and they said, "This is a gift for you." Why did they do this? Because this boat was on the sea, this ship, and a storm came up, was about to sink it. They prayed to Hashem to be saved in the Zechut of Rabbi Shimon. They were immediately saved, and they vowed to repay him with this gift. Now, he had these 60 slaves to prepare his food, and this vast treasure, there was no problem of expense anymore. So he continued his ways as usual. one day, his wife said to her daughter, "Go see how your father is making out without us." So she went to the house, and Azad told her, "Tell your mother that the treasure I have now is bigger than I had before with her. So she needn't worry about me." Then it says that he felt better. He decided he had absented himself too long from the yeshiva. So he went to the yeshiva. When he came there, they were very happy to see him because they had many problems. One of the worst problems is the sheilot, the questions of nidah. A woman who's a nidah has to examine and find out if she is still nidah, or she is pure, whether she can go to the mikveh or not. And the questions always are with the ed, the b'dikah, a piece of cloth which shows whether she is pure or whether she is still staining. The color of that cloth, the color of the stain, must be determined by an expert rabbi who knows colors. There are certain colors that are pure, certain ones that are not. They brought to Rabbi Shimon that day 60 of these problems, these sheilot. And he examined all 60 and said they are all pure, which means these women can go to the mikveh, they are free, they are pure, they can rejoin their husbands. The rabbis began to whisper among themselves, something is wrong. Can it be that all 60 should be pure? How is that possible? There must be at least a few who are a doubt. A few who are tameh, or at least a doubt. And if in doubt, you have to be machmir. You've got to consider it impure. He overheard them, he heard them speaking this way. And Mazal said to the rabbis, if I am right, if I was correct in my statement that they are all pure, then let every one of these 60 women give birth to boys. If not, then let there even be one girl among them. If there are 59 boys born and one girl, it will prove that I'm right, that I was wrong. If all 60 are boys, it means that I was right. The end was that every one of them gave birth to a boy, and each mother called this boy, Rabbi Elazar, his name in honor of him. The Gemara says that Rabbi Kadosh said, what a shame it is that this Roman government, which took Rabbi Elazar away for so many years to serve as a detective, took him away from the yeshiva. What a great loss this was, because women, always in doubt, could not go to the mikveh that day. This means they were deprived of conceiving that on a possible kosher night. And how many Jews could have been born more if not for this evil Roman government that kept Rabbi Elazar away from the yeshiva? Later, the Gemara says, finally, Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon, this was many years after the Shimon ben Arizal's passing, he saw he was going to pass away, Ministalek. So he said to his wife, I know that the rabbis are somehow opposed to me. They resent what I had done previously. Of course, I had been serving as a detective. I had done what was wrong in their eyes. So most probably, when I pass away, they're not going to give me a proper type of funeral with honor, as is fit for me. Not that I want one with honor that much, but I don't want them to be punished for the lack of kavod. Therefore, I'm telling you now that when I pass away, do not have me buried. Place my body upstairs in a special private room and keep me there without burial. The Gemara says he was nistalek. His wife did that. He remained up in the attic in his room upstairs without being buried for approximately 18 to 24 years, the Gemara says. It was not less than 18 years, not more than 24 years, 22 years, 18 to 22 years. There's a debate as to exactly how long. So it was certainly no less than 18 and no more than 22. This amount of years he remained up in the attic without being buried. And of course, the first question is, the rule is, the Torah states that a person is not allowed to be kept even overnight without burial, because this does a lot of harm for the person's neshama. So the kavod, the honor for any person who passes away, is to bury him immediately. How could they have kept the neshama from burial for so many years? The answer is that the reason we bury a person quickly is for the sake of his kavod. If for his honor it's necessary to leave him stay another day, it is permissible to keep a person from burial for a day. For example, if a man's children are not in town, they'll arrive a day later, or important officials, great rabbis will come a day later, you're allowed to keep a body for an additional day. Here, the entire purpose of detaining his burial was because of his kavod. He might be buried without kavod. His kavod was so high a degree that to him, waiting for 20 years approximately was worth delaying for the sake of seeing that his chavruta burial was with kavod. During that time, he was placed in this upstairs room. His wife would visit him continually, and she found that he was completely preserved, just as in life. In fact, the Gemara says that she would comb his hair to see that he was in perfect order. One day, she noticed a tiny worm at the tip of his ear, and she became aghast at this. Is something wrong? That night, he spoke to her in her dream and said to her, don't worry about this. The reason that you saw this was a punishment for me, because one day I heard a rabbi being insulted, and I protested strongly, but not strongly enough. Because I did not rise up and protest strongly enough, therefore this was the token of my punishment. Otherwise, he said, have no fear, don't worry at all about me. Now, there was a gain to all this. The Gemara says that every time people had problems, especially in litigation, one person would sue another, court case, they would come to the Rabbi Shimon's house, they would stand downstairs, each person would state his side, explain his side, and they'd hear a voice from the attic saying, this person is right, and this one is guilty, this one should pay so much. The laws were given according to the Torah from above. During the entire time, all these years, the city where he was lying was completely protected from any harm, any violent harm of wild animals. Completely protected. Finally, one day it happened after this number of years that Rabbi Shimon's wife Aharon.